It's no secret that in recent years, Call of Duty Zombies has fallen off the bandwagon a bit. Hell, all Call of Duty has if you look at it as a franchise as a whole. Campaign writing and storytelling is getting worse, multiplayer spawns and damage systems are awful, maps have terrible layouts and are getting smaller, Warzone hasn't been nearly as popular as it was back in 2019 and is getting worse with each iteration, and bundles are a plague that is eating the game from the inside out. As for Zombies, where do we start? The new point system is unrewarding and doesn't feel as good as the previous point system. The enemy types and elites are just being reused in every map at this point, voice actors are being fired or removed, and Activision refuses to provide protections for their employees against AI while also using and selling AI bundles in the in-game store. Regardless of your opinion of Call of Duty Zombies, one thing is for sure, and it's that most people aren't happy with the state of the game, especially not the hardcore community. I personally think that COD Zombies is getting worse, but is still in a better place than Warzone or multiplayer. With COD Zombies fans in such a state of burnout and overall dissatisfaction, there's one idea, one concept, that has been floating around the community since as far back as even 2011. The idea of a standalone COD Zombies game seems amazing to fans of the game mode who have long believed the game mode is more than just a mode, and it practically is its own video game franchise with a completely different story, appeal, gameplay loop, and much, much more. But is it a good idea from a financial point of view, and if so, why hasn't Activision pursued it? Well, there actually was the idea of a standalone game being thrown around and being made back in 2012, but it was cancelled and they shelved the project. You see, many people argue that if Activision allowed a COD Zombies standalone game, it would take a massive chunk of the player base and therefore customers and money away from the Call of Duty games that come out yearly. I personally would argue that a live service COD Zombies game would actually give them more money. And I know we wouldn't like this as a community, but imagine a free-to-play COD Zombies game, or even one that you pay for. A game where each set of maps, Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2, Black Ops 3, etc., as well as other modes such as Outbreak and MWZ, were sold as DLC bundles, much like how Destiny does their DLCs. Each new map can be its own expansion or paid DLC after that, and add on to that an in-game store with bundles and COD points could be also a thing, and I firmly believe Activision would make far more money from a COD Zombies game than many people think. The regular yearly CODs might suffer at first due to a lack of zombies, but the multiplayer, campaign, and competitive community would still buy and play the new games, as well as the Warzone community. So I firmly believe they'd go back to making just as much money as before, especially since they've released plenty of Call of Duty games without zombies that have performed fine in the past. The Zombie standalone game launching with every game's maps as paid DLC would also boost their sales instantly and make up for the amount of money they'd lose on the regular games, not counting the fact that the fans who enjoy both Zombies and multiplayer would then have to buy both games, giving them even more money in sales. I've heard many of my friends in real life say they'd play Zombies if they didn't have to go back and get 12 different games to be able to play every single map. I believe in the long run it would actually be a much more successful and profitable business strategy than the current paid game live service situation with the COD HQ. We could also have mod support with custom maps introduced and could even bring them to console. Activision could sell custom maps for COD points similar to how Minecraft has their store set up for Bedrock and share a portion of the profits with the map creator, which would allow the map creators to be paid for their work, console to get custom maps for the first time in history, cross-platform mod support, and custom maps for the first time since BO3, as well as Activision could still milk the game for all of its worth. For the record, no, I'm not okay with Activision only seeing dollar signs and just trying to milk COD forever. However, you have to look at it realistically from a business perspective and see how Activision would see it. Now, you may be thinking, but wouldn't that mean the older games would drop off in sales? And yes, it would. And while that may sound like bad business to Activision, I would counter to that point with the old games are just that. Old. They are fun to revisit, sure, and they definitely make money still, seeing as though games like Black Ops 1 are still priced at around $50 to $60 even 15 years later, but they are outdated. They don't have crossplay, and the majority of the casual community you're trying to build by making the games more accessible are not going to care enough to go back and buy all of the old games and their season passes, especially not without any crossplay capabilities. On top of that, the sales you'd make from people buying each game's map sets in the standalone game would be no different than the games themselves getting sales, with the exception of multiplayer and campaign, and those communities would still go back and buy the old games. This would also allow you to fix the hacking problem with the older games. If people buy the maps on a new standalone game instead and play that, then Treyarch can keep track of the new game and all of the maps, and hackers would get less people on the older games. You don't want to go back and give support against hackers in BO3 anyways, so this would massively help the problem while still making you money. The problem with this idea really comes down to the board of directors and people who run everything at the very top. They are so out of touch, they wouldn't see these potential rewards for taking a risk like this, and they would just write it off as as they'd see nothing but a massive decline in numbers across several games, not considering an increase over time. Treyarch could focus on their zombies game and help out with ranked on standard COD games, and Infinity Ward and Sledgehammer could make the campaigns and multiplayers, or Treyarch could make games with campaign and multiplayer to continue Black Ops games while having the live service zombies game on the side. Ultimately, it's not a scenario I see ever happening, but I do firmly believe it would be a win-win for Activision and the fans of Call of Duty Zombies. But let me know your thoughts. I bring all of this up to lay out the best explanation I can provide as to why people love Sker Ritual, and why people flocked to it once bigger creators started covering it even in the slightest bit. You see, Sker Ritual scratched an itch that the Zombies community has had for many, many years at this point. And while not every Zombies player found it to be a good game or even enjoyed it, a good enough chunk of players did for it to be a massive success for the developers of the game. For those unfamiliar with Sker Ritual, which I'm sure some people watching this would be, Sker Ritual is a round-based survival game made by Wales Interactive, which is a Welsh independent video game developer and publisher established in 2011. Wales typically didn't make games like Sker Ritual, but this was a passion project. You can tell just by playing it that it was made to be a love letter to COD Zombies fans, with similar perks, Pack-a-Punch and or Supercharge as it's called in Sker Ritual, Easter eggs, boss fights, hidden lore, intel drops like in modern Zombies, a miracle system which is similar to the Covenant Heart system in Vanguard, a gothic art design with an already established story, old school weapons like the PPSH or the M14, and much, much more. The game does an incredible job of capturing that old school Zombies feel while also implementing things that work in the modern Zombies era. The game is made by 5 people and yet still gets regular updates, even including new content such as maps, new Easter eggs, free to earn battle passes for each map called Sker passes, new perks, new guns, wonder weapons, cheap $2 to $5 DLC bundles, cosmetics, background music, menu backgrounds, and much more. The game is not without its flaws, and we will get into that in just a minute, but overall, the game was crafted with so much care for the community it was trying to appeal to that it's no wonder that Zombies fans flock to it, especially in an era of Zombies and COD as a whole, where it seems to be getting worse and worse progressively each year. I personally love the perk system of this game. I like the choice of perks we got, with Elixir of Life, aka Jug, providing more of a health boost, Stallion Juice, aka Stamina, providing more of a speed boost, Shotgun Load working as the electric cherry of this game, Fast Hands being the speed cola, Swift Death being the double tap, which means they actually brought it back before COD did, Get Up and Go being quick revive, and more. Not to mention my personal favorite name for a perk in any game at this point, which is the Mule Kick equivalent, aka More Gun. The art design is that of a gothic steampunk horror, which we actually haven't seen much in Zombies, and it looks really, really good. The maps have their own unique personality and atmosphere with an amazing soundtrack and great map layout for the most part. The somewhat cartoony look to the way the maps are created is kind of refreshing in round-based survival, and it fits the story nearly perfect. The story and lore is pretty expansive for just one game made by a small indie team and works as a sequel to the bad ending of Made of Sker. It also dips into mythology and sirens from stories like the Odyssey as well as Welsh folklore. The main characters, the Williams family, are actually based on real-life people and a real-life story at a place that is actually called Sker House. To me, that is actually such a fascinating and unique story, and I love how they pull from their roots as a Welsh company. It really helps to feel that this is a game made by people who care and want to make a good game. The weapons are mostly good with a couple of really bad ones, but that's with any game. The enemy types are unique and creative, but if I'm being honest, there are way too many on the map at one time. You have Blaze Slingers who shoot fireballs at you while also dealing with Banshees who can teleport to you. Speed Freaks are simply annoying, and if you lower their health and then have to reload or something, they will then clone themselves into another Speed Freak known as a Clone Freak. Not even counting Phantoms, which hit faster than a traditional enemy and are also literally invisible. The game could use a bit of cutting back on just how many there are on the map at all times, especially with Nightmare Mode, which gives every zombie in the game different abilities like this at almost completely random. Not to mention mini-boss rounds, where every 5 rounds the mini-boss of the map will spawn in, and after a certain point there's just no use in trying to kill them, as you can typically just ignore them and be fine. Another aspect I personally don't like is that the game has a trial system in place, and if you are anything like me or know anything about me, you also hate, and I hate, defense missions, or any kind of mission that forces you to abandon what you're already doing in the map or in the game to do something else without any warning. That is exactly what trials in this game are. Trials in Sker Ritual start, and most of them can be ignored with little punishment but still punish you. The worst one, however, and the most common one I come across is the Stop the Elite Maker trial. This trial sees you destroy a machine that's making an elite enemy known as an abomination, which has the health of a mini-boss and the speed of a normal enemy. If you don't stop what you're doing and do the trial in time, it will spawn an abomination every time, and some maps have this happen ridiculously too much. For example, Tides of Terror has done this to me during a boss fight, and it pops up almost every round on that map. I just wish there was an ability to specifically choose whether or not to do them, but the closest thing there is to that is if you want a high round, just start a step for the Easter egg and never finish it, as it won't start any trials during Easter egg steps, so you're pretty much good on high rounds at least, but it still sucks if you're an Easter egg guy or if you're just playing casually. The game is clunky, and you can definitely tell and feel that it was made on an older engine by less people, but for me personally, the game is fun enough that it doesn't take that away from me, like it doesn't take away from the game. Along with this, it's also getting a new update as part of this year 2 cycle for the game, where they plan on updating the game, so there is work being done for that. They also added a camo grind specifically in response to fans of the game asking for one, which is a huge step and means a lot knowing that they listen to their player base. Only problem with the camo grind is that it's XP based and you have to earn a lot of XP to get every camo for even one gun, but hey, it's still an improvement on the progression of the game and made specifically because the players requested it, so I'll take that as a W that they actually listen to their players and want to give them what they want. The Easter eggs are fun, and having one Easter egg be guided and another one that's more hidden that doesn't tell you what to do at all is such a nice feature, but the steps do get repetitive. That being said, they did start adding more unique steps as the game went on with new maps being dropped, so again, attempting to make the game better than it already is. There are now music Easter eggs as well for each and every specific map, and each one has its own unique steps that last about as long as hidden Easter eggs do for some of the maps, which is insane, giving you even more content to unlock and grind for, with a reward being that you unlock the song from the map as an official menu track that you can listen to in the game menu. The cosmetics could use some work, seeing as though you only get the ability to change your mask the character wears, but overall they're pretty fun and easy to unlock. Having free Sker passes as mini battle passes for each map is awesome and provides even more progression, as well as unlocking dread levels for the game, which unlocks even more menu backgrounds, music, and cosmetics. Having a difficulty setting, which is beginner, easy, normal, hard, and nightmare, is also an amazing feature of the game for me, as it allows for players to play at their skill level, as well as providing more content for players the better they get at the game who may want to attempt harder modes once they've learned how to play. The Platinum Trophy grind, as somebody who has a Platinum Trophy and a 100% in this game, is a hell of a grind, but in no way feels like a chore, and I found myself enjoying it quite a bit. The co-op feature is amazing if you have friends to play with, but I'll be honest, if you play with randoms, you're better off playing solo, as most people leave after one down, as well as there being currently no way to communicate with randoms in the match, although they are adding ways to communicate in the future, so look forward to that. The miracle system adds a lot to the game, and I think it's awesome just how many combinations you can make with it. It provides you with the ability to play a very different style every time you ever play, which is just amazing. The wonder weapons are awesome and really fit the aesthetic of each map, with the super Easter egg reward being the most overpowered wonder weapon in the game, which is also awesome. And to make sure you're not permanently overpowered, making it to where you still have to do the guided quest first before being able to use the God Killer wonder weapon or the super Easter egg reward is just a nice touch in my opinion. Overall, the game has its flaws, and it's not perfect, but for myself and a lot of Zombies fans last year when the game launched who felt so sick and tired of Activision in the current state of Call of Duty Zombies, it was a breath of fresh air, and it provided some much needed fun and quality to the space for the first time in a long time. I'm not here to tell you that the game is perfect, or that you will definitely love it no matter what, but I am here to give my opinion, and my opinion is that the game is amazing. I have so much fun to this day every time I played this game, solo or with friends, and it means a lot to me as well, as it was the first game I really covered on this channel. I rank this game personally at a solid 9 out of 10 in terms of how I like it, but as a game, it's probably closer to a 7 out of 10. But that's okay. To me, it will always be a masterpiece, a flawed masterpiece. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video. I will see you guys in the next video, in the next stream, and in the next map. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Peace out.